everyone. Heather Holmes here with KTV Fox 2 News of the San Francisco Bay Area. And tonight we're getting reaction to the first presidential debate from San Francisco Republican Harmeet Dhilllon. Harmeet, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks, Heather. Happy to be here.
Let's first off get your impressions of this first debate. How did President Trump do?
Well, President Trump did great, as we have come to see his debate performances in the 2016 cycle and how he's run the country over the last 4 years. He certainly brought his A game, and I was very proud of his performance. He did a great job. And so, we were seeing Joe Biden really debate in a presidential debate for the first time. And so certainly his performance was really not what I expected.
And why do you say that?
Well, we've seen Joe Biden talking to very small, curated groups of supporters over the entirety of this, general election cycle. And he's made a lot of gaffes, even in those friendly settings. He said a lot of things that are not true. He has seemed confused in almost a, senile dementia kind of way. That wasn't the Joe Biden who showed up tonight. Tonight, he did not appear addled or confused. He did say a lot of things that I disagree with, but he was his usual personality is a little bit more mild-mannered, and he was really personally attacking, seemed very thin-skinned, told the president to shut up, and called him a liar and a racist. I think that's not the Joe Biden who we're used to, and so that was quite different.
What did you make of just the overall tone of the debate and the interruptions by both candidates tonight?
Well, don't forget the interruptions by Chris Wallace, who interrupted the president by far the more times. And so at times it felt like the president was debating both Chris Wallace and Joe Biden. And as I joked on social media, if the Democrats were giving out awards for MVP, it would be to Chris Wallace tonight, because he certainly assisted quite a few times. Tenor-wise, I guess if I'm an American looking at this debate and trying to decide if I'm undecided, I'm not sure this debate would have decided it for me. Certainly partisans of the president would have cheered, and they did cheer, and I'm cheering. Partisans of Joe Biden hate the president and think that their candidate did a good job. However, if I'm a progressive leftist looking at this debate, I am wondering why Joe Biden backed off the Green New Deal, which his running mate Kamala Harris co-sponsored in the Senate, and what his position really is on some of these other issues, on universal health care, on defunding the police. And so I think that if I'm a Bernie bro, I'm a little concerned from some of the things I heard tonight.
Do you think that President Trump picked up any additional support from this debate?
There probably are some people out there who are undecided. I've heard that's true. I haven't met any of them, frankly, in my travels. But yes, I suspect each side would have picked up a few. If I'm an undecided, just spitballing, if I'm an undecided voter, though, I would wait to see what happens in the next two debates, because I'm probably still undecided after watching this debate.
Okay, let's talk about a few of the topics discussed tonight. What about the Supreme Court nominee? What did you make of President Trump and his defending the attempts by those Republicans and by the Senate to move forward with replacing Justice Ginsburg?
Well, I wrote an op-ed about this issue on Fox Opinion, and what's interesting is Joe Biden has had every side of this issue over the years. He's flip-flopped 3 times on whether a president can and should have his election year nominee confirmed. But history is with President Trump, and even as President Trump correctly points out, Ruth Bader Ginsburg's words in 2016 before that election was that the president is the president throughout his tenure. He doesn't stop being the president during the general election cycle. And so it is the president's prerogative and indeed duty to make that nomination. It is the Senate's right to advise and consent and withhold that consent if they want to withhold that consent. And so historically, when the White House and the Senate are held by the same party, in 7 out of the 8 times that's happened during an election year, the president's nominee was confirmed. And this year, if history is to be our guide, that would be the outcome as well. And I don't think that Joe Biden had convincing or even coherent arguments to the contrary.
What did you make of the questions about Joe Biden about whether or not he would pack the Supreme Court? He didn't answer that question, but what do you think is the thinking behind Joe Biden and Democrats when it comes to this issue?
That's a very interesting question. One of the accusations against Joe Biden is that he's weak. He's a puppet. He's even himself said he isn't going to serve a second term, and most people question that he's going to fill out his first term. So he seems very fragile in a way, and very cowed and manipulated by what more forceful figures in his party have pushed him towards. So I would never have said in prior years or even prior weeks that a Joe Biden would be a person to pack the courts, because he seemed to have been somebody who respected the history of our country, was sort of a mainstream Democrat. Today, he wouldn't say that. I think that's pretty shocking, and it's a shocking tell. And Chris Wallace let him get away with not answering that question, which was quite disappointing and telling as well. So I can only take away from that the far left of the party has determined that their party line is going to be pack the courts. We've heard that from Chuck Schumer. We've heard that from Nancy Pelosi. We've heard that from many other Democrats. I don't think Joe Biden feels he can depart from that, so he was allowed to dodge it.
Speaking, though, of dodging, the president was asked about this bombshell report in the New York Times about how much he has paid in federal income tax. The president was asked if that article was true, the $750 in federal income tax, and he didn't answer except to say that I paid millions. What do you make of how the president has handled questions about how much he contributes in taxes?
I think he handled it well. I think he handled it consistently. And I think that there's no doubt that he's paid tens of millions of dollars of taxes over the years. I'm not any way compared to the president, but I have a lengthy tax return, and I can tell you that if you were to look at one page of it selectively, you would not see an accurate, outcome of what my tax liabilities were. And you got multiple businesses, you got different schedules, you may be owed a refund, you may be in a tax dispute with the government. And so all of these things come into play. So I think it's really unfair to use leaked documents that were illegally leaked to prejudge the question. But the president forcefully said those reports are untrue, and he paid millions. And he also pointed out specifically numbers of millions in prior years as well. And I'll finally point out that during at least one of these years in question, the president donated 100% of his salary to charitable ends. So it wouldn't surprise me that he paid very little taxes in a year where he gave away all of his money.
And I just want to kind of end with something that Joe Biden said when he called President Trump Putin's puppet. What do you make of that claim by Joe Biden?
Tired. I think Joe Biden has memorized some talking points. That's a very stale talking point. It's kind of shameful that Democrats are engaging in that type of disinformation. Only today, our national security head, DNI Ratliff, released a statement that made clear that the Obama administration, including presumably Joe Biden being part of those briefings in 2016, was briefed on the fact that Hillary Clinton was the one employing Russian assets to sow confusion in the 2016 election. So it's really only one party that's been shown at this point to have taken an assist from Russia, and it isn't the Republican Party. So to repeat that at this time is pretty pathetic.
Okay, Harmeet, we're going to wrap up our conversation, but sort of final thoughts on this first debate and expectations for round two.
Well, round two is going to be a very different format. I think all Americans are thankful for that, because this format was, I think, really poorly managed by Chris Wallace. I mean, of course, each of the candidates has their share of, the outcome of that, but Chris Wallace could have done a much better job, and he let it get away from him repeatedly when he wasn't putting his thumb on the scale. When it is a town hall and it is citizens asking questions and it's one at a time, hopefully we'll have a illuminating exchange of ideas that'll really help undecided voters decide what to do. And remember that in this weird COVID situation, many people are already voting, and come next week, here in California, we'll have our ballots in hand and we'll be starting to vote. And so I really wish these debates had come earlier, but nature has set some of this timing for us. And so I know how I'm voting already, and I know many Americans do. And so, let's just hope that those who are not sure will get some answers in the next two debates.
All right. California Republican Harmeet Dhilllon, thank you so much for talking with us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.